Hello, sir.
Hey, here we are. We are here. We made it.
Here we are. This is the editing bay, one of the editing bays where Alex Winter cut the masterpiece that was Deep Web.
We cut that, big chunk of it in here.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm John Ehrlichman, happy to be here for a spotlight on Parachute TV. I do trivia on my own account, and today we are doing a really cool Q&A conversation with the one and only Alex Winter. Alex is right here.
Hey.
Alex is a busy guy. Alex is the director of Deep Web, which is about the Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht and all this world of Bitcoin and mysterious stuff. It's an amazing film. And it became available on iTunes at the beginning of this month, and is rocking it there. He also, if you guys are fans of YouTube stars and YouTube culture, just directed the Smosh film, which was a blow-up hit on iTunes as well.
Yeah, it did well.
He is now someone saying, Alex, he was great on my show too. Oh, that's cool. Man on Movies is here. And now he's doing a documentary on Frank Zappa. And of course, longtime Bill and Ted's fans know. Yeah.
You can run, but you can't hide.
So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're basically going to try to have a conversation, keep you involved. I know you're going to have a lot of questions. We're going to try and involve them. What we did just a couple of seconds ago, and thank you for the hearts. Hey, Score Star. It's my better half. Yeah. She's in the room. Listen, guys, we had on my show on trivia, we gave a couple of people a chance to answer some trivia questions, and so they have the first opportunity to ask some questions. We're going to launch into those questions, and we're going to look at what you guys are asking, and we're going to take it from there. So there's the great BT Kingsley. So the first question we had from one of the players in, you had a crush on Bill Preston. Didn't we all? So listen, the first question that somebody had was from Renee in my broadcast, which was life after Bill and Ted's. It is pretty interesting story. I mean, you had success at such a young age, and now you are still in Hollywood, but you're doing something really different, really creative, and you are like a thought leader on a lot of these big issues in technology, and they've been the themes of some of your films.
I mean, I went to, I was always interested in directing and writing as well as acting. I started acting professionally when I was 9 years old. So I was a child actor. And I direct a lot of kids, and I always tell them, find something that you want to do besides just this. Not because you shouldn't do this for the rest of your life, but at a point you may want to. If you don't think about it, it'll be too late. For me, I always wanted to write and direct stuff. So I went to film school for that, and after the second Bill and Ted, I really pushed my career more into stuff behind the camera. So I've made a lot of different kinds of movies and TV shows and written scripts. And in the last few years, I've been making documentaries, and I made one on Napster, the file sharing service called Downloaded. And then I just made one called Deep Web, which is primarily about the encrypted, hidden internet and a criminal case that happened within that hidden internet around a black market called the Silk Road. So, I think it's really, for me, it was just about focusing on what I really wanted to do with my life. And I love acting. It's great, but I wanted to spend more of my time behind the camera.
So we had another question, by the way, over in my broadcast, which was about the documentaries that Alex has done. He shed light on two of them on Deep Web. He obviously did a full sort of look back at the story and the rise of Napster. And now you're working on a Frank Zappa documentary. Maybe just shed a little bit of light on what we can expect. I think I read that it's going to be largely from his voice or from his.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I like telling stories about really multifaceted characters, maybe characters that aren't black and white or aren't easy at first blush to digest. And Zappa is someone I've always been a big fan of, but I also love the fact that he's a really complicated character. And he was a great musician, and he made sort of rock music and jazz music, and he also made classical music. And then he was a big political activist, and he had this whole other life, and he was a filmmaker, and he was this very great wit and satirist, and he was super articulate about, his values in the world at that time. So to me, it's just this gigantic, great big American character that I'm really looking forward to jumping into. And I was lucky enough to have the family give me their approval. So we have access, which is really the first time anyone has had full access to their vault, which gives us access to all the media.
Wow.
Which is music, which is amazing, but also a lot of Zappa talking and interviews that we've never seen. So
so the road to making that is what? Do you
long. So I'm talking about it now, and some of you will you won't be dead, but you will be considerably older when I'm back and talking about it again.
There you go. And there we go. Here's BT Kingsley, who's a friend of ours, asking a really good question. You know, right now you've got a lot of people experimenting with things like Periscope here, wondering about the best way to go about making TV shows and films. We highlighted that you had a huge amount of success doing this Smosh film, which for you was maybe a bit of a sort of a break from the intensity of what you were doing on Deep Web. But where do you think, like, between feature films and web series, you have a lot of opportunities. How do you approach projects?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I go back and talk to the film schools that I went to a lot, and the kids always ask me that, or the students ask. They're not really kids. Students ask me that. You know, it seems so hard to break into the entertainment industry. You know, how do you do it? And the answer that I give them really relates to the technology that we have at our disposal today, because you know, it's always been hard. So it's not like, oh, when I was young, you guys have no idea. But when I was young, you guys have no idea. It was really hard. You know, it was film. It was expensive. You couldn't, you know, process it easily. You couldn't edit it easily. And today you can pick up an iPhone and make a movie, provided you have access to technology. I think there are still people who don't have that access. But assuming you have basic access to technology, it's so easy to make something and get it out. So what I like about that, for me, I've always liked, I'm not driven by a particular format. I actually like living in the digital age. I've made a lot of TV commercials. I make short films that are 15 seconds long. I make long movies.
Music videos?
Yeah, music videos. It doesn't matter to me, and the technology affords me the ability to be fluid. But it does put the onus on the creator to be good. And that takes a lot of practice and trial and error. And, you know, there's a movie recently that came out called Tangerine, which was shot on an iPhone. And it's really, really good. But the reason that movie is really good is the script and the storytelling and the execution is really, really good. And it really proves the point that you can, the format doesn't matter. The content is king. And so you have to be really, really good. And if you are good and you're persistent, you will break through, and you have the means to break through today. Your distribution's at your disposal. I mean, hence us sitting in this edit bay on your phone.
Yes. By the way, guys, where are we? We're in Stitch. This is an editing facility in Santa Monica. This is one of the editing bays that Alex used for Deep Web. Have you used this outside of that?
No. We just did Deep Web in here. We were here in another room for a long time.
So if you guys are just joining, hi, welcome to Parachute TV. My name is John Ehrlichman. I do trivia on my own account. Happy to be here with the great Alex Winter, who is a great person to ask questions about all things film, the future of film. Somebody's saying, who do you feel is making great docs and features, which we'll let Alex weigh in on that. And also people were asking questions about film schools. I think someone was asking where you, like which film schools you visited. And also, I think sort of about like what kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, the person who asked this question, what kind of, I guess, creator is being developed inside a film school today? Has it changed?
Well, film schools are really the same in a sense that all the technology is completely different. And there's no film in film school anymore, really. So obviously the surface is completely changed, radically. But what's inside has stayed the same, which is, you know, if you go to film school, you're spending most of your days and nights and weekends watching, writing, and shooting movies, which is an amazing experience. I'm a huge proponent. I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think college is for everybody. But I had a great experience. I went to NYU Film School, and I love it, and I still love it. It stayed really strong, and it really helps you. It's like a laboratory. It helps you be in an environment where you can just work in that area, trial and error, experiment. And I've talked at that school and USC and other schools, film schools around the world actually, and there's a lot of great film schools. So you just look at which one has the kind of the vibe that's right for you. And then it sort of, what it does to you is it turns you into that person that's inside you already. You know, the person who wants to create, and it gives you focus and an ability to learn where your strengths and where your weaknesses are, which I think is helpful.
A couple of questions I will throw your way. Hello, Sock Cop is in the room. Sock Cop, one of the great creators here on Periscope. It's a really cool community of amazing creators, and obviously this creator has also sampled around here too, which is kind of cool to see people who know the traditional media world also experimenting with Periscope. 2 questions we saw from you guys. One, do you watch other people's docs?
Yeah, of course.
And Scorestar was asking, how do you stand out? If everybody has the ability to shoot a movie on their phone, what's the strategy? I mean, in the case of Smosh, you're talking about they have just an enormous internet audience.
Yeah, Smosh had a huge audience out of the gate for us when we decided to make a movie. I mean, they've got tens of millions of subscribers.
Yeah.
So. You know, the question is, how do you clutter bust, right? How do you get through the clutter? Yeah. And honestly, practice is going to make you better. Persistence is going to get you through that wall, which means it really is like trial and error. You keep at it until you get through the wall. And, there are people, and not getting discouraged by other people getting through that wall before you do, because everyone's journey is different. And some people are going to get through really fast. You're going to be like, oh, why did that happen to them and not to me? I've been, toiling away for however much time. But it's really about your tenacity and your persistence. I've never seen anybody who worked really hard at their craft, who had persistence, not make it on some level. I've just never seen it. And most people I've seen that haven't made it gave up. They were it's just too much effort. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't like the industry. There's a laundry list of excuses. Yeah. But they give up. And people who don't give up but do all the work make it. And yeah, I watch documentaries. I've been watching documentaries since I was a little kid. And, some of my favorite documentaries were made even before I was born. The art form goes back a long way, and it's amazing. A film like Don't Look Back, which is made about Bob Dylan, one of my favorite documentaries, Harlan County, USA, which was made by Barbara Koppel's docs, one of my favorite documentaries. And today, Errol Morris's The Fog of War is probably my favorite modern documentary, because I love talking heads. If you see my docs, you'll see I always have a lot of talking heads. Yeah. Some people hate them. I love them. I love watching human beings speak. I like seeing their eyes, their expression. The Fog of War is nothing but one guy talking for 2 hours. Right. So, and it could be really bad, but Errol Morris is great, and so it isn't. It's amazing.
So I'm gonna somehow combine 2 questions, even though they're not necessarily meant to be combined. But someone was just reacting to what you were saying and even mentioning Jeeps. It was actually Jeeps, who was in our other game. Hi, Jeeps. Saying, I like the 30 for 30 series. And what's I think interesting today is when you sort of thought about documentaries, 25 years ago, I go to an art house theater and that's where I go to see it. I can't go to cable or certainly a sports network. Someone's saying, what kind of actors do you like to work with? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. We'll get to that one. And the other, or you can field that one. The other one, somebody asked, do you still approach distributors? Mm-hmm. So I guess if you want to take a stab at any of those questions, go for it. And by the way, guys, we're here with Alex Winter, the director, from child star to highly successful director of all sorts of genres right now. Really great in the documentary category, but just did the incredibly well-performing Smosh, and now getting ready to work, potentially for years, he's implying, on the Frank Zappa documentary. Yeah. Anyway,
going as fast as I can. The distribution question, I'll sort of tie into the 30 on 30 question, which is, as I said before, I like how formats have changed. I like how, and even when back in the early 90s, I started directing commercials. And what I liked about directing commercials, and I directed them mostly in the UK. And the style in the UK, for anyone who knows, is really cinematic. Like TV commercials in the UK, when they're good, are like little movies. And
in the UK, because that's where the opportunity was?
I'm half English. I was actually born in England.
That's right.
And I have a British passport. Okay. And I was shooting music videos and commercials here, but then I went over to shoot a music video in London. I loved it so much. Okay. I actually co-founded a production company over there. Oh, cool. Worked there for like a dozen years. Okay. So, and I loved UK advertising. They didn't, at the time, have a huge film world, so a lot of the talent there went into advertising. So I kind of cut my teeth directing in the UK ad world. And so I like making little movies. I like making little docs that are 15 seconds long, 30 seconds long. So at 30 on 30, you can make a doc that's any length. So I think some of the best TV commercials are documentary commercials, and they're super short.
Yeah.
I've made commercials that are literally 15. I did a commercial campaign with Michael Imperioli, the guy from Sopranos, for Cuervo, and those commercials were 15 seconds long.
Oh yeah, those are good.
And they were doc style.
Yeah.
And it was just a guy talking to a camera, shot on the same way we did Downloaded, with the same camera and the same DP. And that to me is a mini doc. It's like capturing something in a person who's real and in your face. And so I love that. So that sort of ties into distribution. It's like, yes, you need to be paid most of the time in order to make a documentary. And some people have the ability or the lifestyle, they're almost more like reporters, to just pick up a camera and spend years of their life just shooting something, and then they cut it together and they present it to a distributor and say, do you like my movie? Will you distribute it? I tend to go the other way, and I go to like VH1 for Downloaded, and they distributed it for TV. And in the case of Deep Web, I went to Epix, and they signed on early. And in Zappa, we'll see how we go. I may not bring a distributor on quite so early.
Okay. Guys, thank you for all your amazing questions. Thanks for being here on Parachute TV. Great info is absolutely right. This man is a wealth of knowledge, and he's sharing it with you exclusively right here on Periscope.
If you tweet me some questions off of this, if we missed them, then I'll respond.
There you go. It's at ALX Winter is Alex's Twitter handle, so do that. Everybody's saying thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Bergler, also known as the Sock Cop, a huge fan as well.
Thank you.
Listen, we're going to wrap this up shortly, guys. So if you have any other questions, maybe Alex can take one or two more. But this is cool, and maybe because of all your thoughtful questions, he'll come back and do another spotlight right here on Parachute TV. Someone was asking about an agency you worked with or were represented by in the UK when you were there, or?
Well, I was partnered in a production company called Brave Films.
Okay.
It was originally Propaganda, and then we shifted over to Brave. So Brave Films was our production company. That was going for a long time over there.
Cool.
So.
All right. I guess, the one thing I would ask before you go is, you sort of said everyone has their own journey. And for a lot of people, some get through quickly, others don't. I guess the challenge for a lot of people is you feel like you want to stick with something, but it's always hard to know how long that road is.
Yeah.
So have you ever had sort of a stretch in your career where you were like, I want to get there. I feel like it's going to take a long time. And what kept you motivated?
It's interesting. Something like that kind of happened with Downloaded, because I originally met Sean Fanning from Napster in 2001 when Napster was falling apart. And I made a deal with him for his life rights to make a movie out of the Napster stories. I was so blown away by it. And I sold that to a major Hollywood studio. So I wrote the Napster movie as a narrative in Hollywood at a studio in like 2003, 2004. And it languished in development. And then the studio regime changed. And then years went by and just wasn't getting made. And it was really heartbreaking, because I spent several years on that project and a full year just doing research to write the material. And it wasn't and I tried to get it made as an independent, tried to pull it out of the studio, and at a certain point I almost gave up on that story. And someone casually I was having a meeting with just said, why don't you make a doc out of it instead? And it was like a light bulb went off. This was like 9 years later, and I literally had it sold as a doc like a week later.
Wow.
And it was even, I've been in the business a long time at that point, but it was just another example to me of it's all about tenacity and persistence, and that set me off on a road of making docs that I never, I'm starting my third now. I never would have thought about it otherwise. I was like, I'm a narrative filmmaker. Even if I make little narratives, I'm a narrative filmmaker, and it kind of blew my own perspective of myself open. But I was willing to go down another road and unwilling to give up on that story. So, at a certain point, there were many times along the Napster journey where I was like, whatever, this one just didn't happen. I'm going to blow it off and turn my back on it. And I'm very glad I didn't do that. So I personally think, the answer I give film students, and I'll try to keep this short, is like, do it, get a day job, do anything. Don't burn all the bridges behind you in your life, so that if you don't get going quickly, oh, thank you. I like those too. Thank you. That was my first music video I ever made as a solo director. And, find something else to do so you can just keep this stuff alive. If I was reliant for my feeding my kids on getting Downloaded off the ground, I would have abandoned it years ago.
Yeah. That is excellent advice. And I think a lot of you who are experimenting right here on Periscope food for thought, right? I mean, we all know this is something that feels transformational, but there's a big gap and difference between the way traditional TV is made and paid for, and what you guys are getting paid to do stuff here on Periscope, which right now isn't too much, but maybe one day things will shift. Tell us more about Bill and Ted Remake. What stage is the production at? Smiley.
I don't have any news on Bill and Ted at the moment. I'm so sorry, but hopefully we will have news for people soon. But
yeah.
If I say the words Bill and Ted together, it like goes out on the newswire. Like I've made some proclamations, so I got nothing at the moment.
There you go. But great advice on all fronts. Yeah. Absolutely right, Jason. Thanks everybody for being here on Parachute TV. If you liked what you saw and you don't follow Parachute TV, swipe to the side and follow this account for great content 24/7. Check this man out on Twitter at ALXWinter and watch for all his great stuff. And by the way, check it out if you haven't seen. We have Deep Web now on iTunes. Yes. Easy to get for anybody. Smosh is on iTunes.
Mm-hmm. And Download is on Netflix.
Download is on Netflix. Smosh is going to be on Netflix soon.
Imminently.
Imminently.
Yeah.
All these things that words and putting words together that wouldn't have made sense like 5 years ago.
True.
This is all common language now.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for being here. Maybe next time when the Zappa documentary is further along in development, we can ask some more questions to the great Alex Winter.
Working on.
All right. We'll see you guys live from Stitch Editing Facility in Santa Monica. I'm John Ehrlichman, and that's Alex Winter. And thanks for watching Parachute TV. Spotlight.